Hello and welcome to the Try Talking Sport podcast, hosted by me, Joanne Murphy. Whether you are an athlete, adventurer, endurance enthusiast, or simply have an interest in sport, you have come to the right place for inspiration, encouragement, motivation, and as always, plenty of entertainment. I hope you're well settled into the swing of the new year and excited for what 2025 has in store. Let's hope it's not too many more storms, actual or otherwise. Ireland has been battered over the past week, with lots of people affected by the power outages and damages to their homes and businesses due to the really bad weather last weekend. I have yet to fully assess the damage at home. I know I now have a communal back garden with my neighbours as my garden fence is gone, but hopefully that's the worst of it and easily sorted. We took off to Lanzarote for our annual week in the winter sun on Friday, one of the very first flights out of Dublin after the red weather alert was lifted. As always, it's lovely to get away for some sunshine at this time of the year, making the most of the time away with my mum and sister, whilst also trying to get back into a nice routine of training. I did hurt my baby toe in toe paw, how ironic. Not fractured according to the x-ray, but boy oh boy has it hurt for the past few weeks. I was barely able to walk on it. It was sore to touch, to move, or even wear shoes. So my running had to stop. I couldn't even put on my runners, if I'm honest. I treated it like it was fractured, taping it up and minding it. And thankfully, it feels like it's returned to normal this week. So I attempted a little run on Saturday, which I think went okay. Another run this week will tell a tale. Since December, my training has been mainly strength work in the gym, lots of swimming, and a little bit of turbo since the start of the year. It's amazing how much I missed running, even though it's not my favourite of the three. Biking is definitely my favourite, but I have enjoyed going to the gym to do some weights and change up my training to include some time working on strength and conditioning, rather than always veering towards a cardio session. I do hope this training will stand to me when I get back into the full tilt of training for the season. I've yet to select my races for the year. There's no Ironman 70.3 on the cards just yet, but I do have my eye on a few races in Ireland. I loved the Two Provinces Sprint Triathlon in Lanesborough last year and hope to add this and Top of the Mourne Triathlon and maybe Hell of the West in Kilkee to my race card for this year. After that, I just have to see how the year of announcing and work pans out. And thankfully, it looks like it's going to be another busy and exciting year on the microphone. Last year was such a buzz. And to finish the year in New Zealand at the Ironman 70.3 World Championship in Taupo, well, I'm not sure that spectacular end of a season will be replicated for quite a while. It was such a super adventure to travel to Taupo. Although it was a very short trip, it was brilliant. The scenery was breathtaking and the racing, wow, just incredible. Having a front row seat to the racing that unfolded and the performances that the athletes delivered was such a privilege. I can't wait to see how this year unfolds, and I'm very excited to get back on the microphone in the coming weeks and enjoy many more announcing adventures at home and abroad across the year. Before we get into the heart of this episode, a big shout out to the brilliant gang who took part in our Fit for Christmas challenge in December. Over 350 people signed up to take part in the challenge, and we had lots of fun along the way in getting the daily festive themed movements completed. Huge thanks to our prize partners Castle Race Series, Swim for Try, Tribesman Triathlon, and of course Nuasan. Speaking of Nuasan, don't forget you can use the code TTS15 to get 15% discount on their range of fabulous products online at www.nuasan.com. And if you need a nudge to get moving in the coming weeks, come join us. The weekly social Team RWB Zwift Spin on a Monday evening at 7:05 is hosted by myself and Oliver Harkin of Primed Triathlon. It's an hour of cycling and chit-chat. Probably the fastest hour on the turbo of the week. Fastest in terms of time passing, not speed on the bike. You go at your own pace, you chase the sprints or sit in the bunch. What you do is up to you, but it is great fun and a great way to kickstart the week. I'm delighted to be kicking off the podcast for the year with two-time Olympian Philip Doyle, who secured a historic bronze medal for Ireland in rowing at the Paris Olympics with his teammate Daire Lynch. With an impressive resume that includes 2 World Cup silver medals, a World Championship bronze and silver medal, and a Tokyo Olympic semi-final appearance, it was Paris 2024 where Philip's Olympic medal dreams came true. A high achiever from a young age, his sporting talent saw him embrace many sports from soccer and Gaelic to cricket, athletics and swimming before field hockey became his sport of choice. Playing it to a high level, he represented Ireland at under 16 in the European Championship. Off the field of play, Philip's academic ability saw him graduate from Queen's University in Belfast with a first-class honours in medical science and a medical degree. It wasn't until a decade or so ago that Philip first took up rowing whilst at university. The former Abercrombie and Fitch model took to his new sport like a duck to water, and it wasn't long before he was winning races and excelling in his newfound sport. In this entertaining podcast chat, Philip shares a snippet of his life as an elite athlete, the rigorous training routines, mental fortitude and nutritional strategies required to perform at his best, all whilst balancing a demanding medical career. Additionally, He shares his recent experience of competing at Ironman 70.3 Marbella last year and his future aspirations in both rowing and medicine. Balancing his passion for elite sport with the demands of a medical career, Philip exemplifies extraordinary dedication, discipline, and a relentless drive to push boundaries in both arenas. This is a compelling episode offering a window into the life of an elite athlete and medical professional striving to excel in both fields. Now go grab a cuppa and enjoy the show. Philip Doyle, welcome to the Try Talking Sport podcast. I am so excited to have you on the show. We haven't had many rowers on the show before, but we have had some Olympians and Olympic medalists as well. So I am doubly delighted to have you on the show today. Philip, where are you and where have you come from today to be with us?
Well, at the moment, I've recently moved home, so I'm actually in the home house. But I had a day off today, so I was flying back from just outside a place called Cookstown. Did some hike up some, I can't even remember what it was called, Sleeve Galleon or something. So I went to meet the girlfriend for an old hike.
Oh, very good. So kind of just sporty all around then. Even on a day off, you're getting some movement in, getting some activity done.
I have to look after the mental health, Got out in the fresh air. It's actually like a gorgeous day here today. So there's that lovely winter sun. We were supposed to go to the seaside and go up one of the Mourne Mountains, but her dad took her car this morning. He couldn't find his car keys, and so I went over the other direction. So instead of going right, I went left into the Midlands rather than going out to the edge.
Very good. Well, Philip, I don't know really where to start except for the fact that I know very little about rowing. So what I'd love you to do is to tell us a little bit about yourself first, your background. Generally, I know you were very, very sporty as a kid. You played hockey before you ever took up rowing, but take us through like young Philip Doyle growing up, what life was like and how you ended up playing sport and playing it at such a high level before we even talk about rowing.
I've told this story now so many times, and every single time I change a few little details because the memory plays up on you. You become selective, and the more you think about it, the more you remember, and the story shifts and changes, like kind of like my own internal Chinese whispers. But I sort of every time I moved schools, I moved sports. I played GAA and soccer in primary school, and then in the north we kind of have hurling and Gaelic schools, and then we have rugby and hockey schools. So the local school to where I'm from, that's a grammar school, was a hockey and rugby school. And then if I wanted to go to the Gaelic football playing school, I would have had to get in the bus for 30 minutes every day, and that just didn't seem attractive for me. So I swapped then from football and soccer to hockey and squash and everything, like anything going, I'd play it. I played cricket in my last 2 years of school because my A-level biology teacher was a cricket coach, and he said, "Oh, you don't have to come into class on a Wednesday afternoon if you go and play the cricket matches in the summer." So I was like, "No problem, I'll go and hit another cricket ball, no bother." So I literally played anything going. So the whole way through, played hockey, managed to represent Ireland at the Europeans, under 16s, then played some Ulster under 18s stuff, and then really started looking towards trying to get onto the Irish 18s and 21s team, and then medicine started creeping in. I didn't get into medicine the first time round. All my grades were fine. My academics were grand, but in the north, in the application process for university, for us, it's very heavily on this personal statement, like a admissions essay on yourself that you sort of craft and whatever. And mine was very heavily booked towards sport, teamwork, camaraderie, hard work, blah, blah, blah. All the things that employers love that I thought they would love for medical schools. And the question then I got at all my interviews was, how are you going to be able to do medicine and all this sport? Because at that time I was playing for the Ulster under 18 team, trialing for the Irish under 18 team, playing for the school first 11, playing for the club firsts and seconds because I was kind of fringe on both. And like, you were rocking up 14, 15 training sessions in a week. A lot of it's skill based as well, so it wasn't all fitness, but I actually found that I had sort of excelled at the fitness side of it. So I found myself doing my own fitness stuff, road running mostly. And then I found that I was doing a lot of weights in the local Banbridge weight training club, which was like a hardcore weight training club. No cardio, no opening on Sundays, like lads would be in at 4 a.m. before they were, doing their truck routes that started at half five, six. Like it was, you went up in intervals of 10 kg because if you're not strong enough to go up in 10, there was none of this 2.5, 5 quarter plates, all this. It was heavy bench, heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, biceps, arms, back, like real hardcore. Couple of Mr. Northern Ireland bodybuilder types in there as well, like real guys training really hard, but it wasn't very heavily on the cardiovascular side of things. So I got pretty strong, got pretty fit. And then whenever I didn't get into medicine that year because this personal statement, they were all asking me how I was going to balance it. Ironically, now I'm brought back in to give talks about how well I balanced sport and medicine, but we leave that for another time. And then that sort of brought me away from sport quite significantly because I was like, oh, sport has taken away something I want to achieve with my career. So I stepped away, played hockey at a lower level for the second 11, went to Africa for a few months, worked there in hospitals, then came back and worked 3 jobs for the rest of that year. I worked as a receptionist in an obstetrics clinic on the border in Newry. I worked as a care assistant in an EMI nursing home nearby 4 days a week. And they were 4 11-hour shifts. Well, there were 12, but you only got paid for 11 because apparently when you're on break, you're not working. And then at the weekend, I had a family friend who they were helping to manage a local hotel. So I worked in the function suite there doing weddings on Friday evenings, Saturday evenings, and then their carveries on Sundays. So I was working, I'd say, nearly 100 hours a week, most weeks.
When did you
80,
sleep?
we see we would work the function from 12 midday, through the wedding lunch, the evening, the after party. So and then the cleanup, you'd be maybe 12 to 4 a.m. And then sometimes you might be setting up for the next wedding if they needed an extra porter shift done in the morning. You might just stay in the hotel and start work again at 8. So like you could clock up 40 odd hours working in the hotel at the weekends. But I loved it because it was some buzz. Like there was loads of ones my age. We socialized together. That was my social time at the weekends. Like it was great crack, and it was really enjoyable work. To be honest, like simple but really enjoyable. Good camaraderie. Great. Like we sometimes at 4 a.m. then someone would be like, oh well, we all sit down and have a pint. And like 18, 19-year-old me thought this was just the business. Like free pint on the boss at the end of the night for a good shift. So that lifestyle just pulled me away from sport completely just because I was like, right, I need to show that I have a work ethic, that I can, do this. So I just completely changed my energy into it. Now I was still training, going to the gym, running, maybe not as much as before, but still keeping the physiology up. And then I got into medicine, got all my offers, started medical school. And then this story is going on and on and on. But essentially from there, boxed down into, I was walking around Dublin Horse Show. This lady came up to me and said, excuse me, do you want a job? I said, where? She said, in a clothing shop. And I was like, I don't want a job in no clothing shop, go away. And then she was like, no, here, look, this is what you get paid. And she showed me, and I was like, oh, that looks all right. What would I get that for? And she's like, well, you'd be the lad standing at the front with your top off. And I was like, what? And she's like, oh, we want you to be recruited to be a model for Abercrombie. And I was like, I hear I'm not folding t-shirts for Abercrombie. I've heard of these models before. And she was like, no, 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 no. Like we want to put you in to be like considered. And I was like, no way. And it turned out she was a girl from the same hometown as me, and she had been over in America working with Abercrombie and Fitch, and she was on their marketing team. They were opening the store in Dame Street there, just opposite the Trinity entrance in that old bank. And that process then just exploded into this weird and wonderful and mad world of me just trying to get skinny. But then that reignited my whole like learning about nutrition, learning about physiology, like how am I going to do this? How do I have a six pack all the time? What am I going to do for this? So I started training twice a day all the time for that, like one cardio session. And like I would have been flogging myself for 40, 50 minutes on the treadmill, doing a 10K runs in mid 30 minutes. Like I would have been like, but not knowing what I was at, just pushing, always pushing, 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 and not fully understanding why. There was no coach. I was also playing basketball for the university team, and I dabbled in the hockey team for the university as well. But never really found my niche there because the level that they were operating at compared to like my club, Banbridge Hockey Club. I'm not sure if you know, last year they were the Irish Hockey League champions. They competed in the EHL. Like they've got 6 or 7 Irish players, a couple of Olympian. Like it's an exceptionally high performing club hockey team. And just that step down just didn't really pull me in the way I wanted. So I was looking for something in rowing. I had sort of seen it on the 2012 Olympics, and I always had it in my head that, oh, it would be something I might be good at. And then there was two of us in Ireland who were allowed to stand with their tops off for Abercrombie, who were approved. A guy called David Neal who rowed for UCD, and he was like, because we were doing the odd bit of training together, and he was like, lads, why don't you give rowing a go? He's like, if you're looking something, this'll be easy for you. And he's like, you don't have to worry about this diet and nonsense. You just eat whatever you want and just train order. And I was like, what? And he's like, you just eat whatever you want. So I thought this was a fantastic idea. So he gave me the number of the Queen's coach and I gave him a buzz, and that's how I got into rowing.
Mother of God, I don't know where to go with the questions on that. First of all, wow, what a story. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, there's bits I left out.
Couple of things within that though that's come across is your work ethic. When you didn't get into university, into the medical school originally, that sheer drive and determination that you had and the amount of hours you were working was insane to try and prove that you could do all that stuff. Where did this drive to work and to be just always challenging yourself come from? Because that's a very powerful tool to have in your toolbox.
Yeah. I think it's mostly like I always just enjoyed, like I used to love, we used to have cross country competitions in my secondary school. I just was competitive and I loved like seeing the times come down. We used to do a time mile for hockey for the fitness test. That was a time mile or a bleep test. And you used to really rile me up if I didn't win, like really rile me up to the point where I was like, how am I going to win next time? Train harder, go faster, run more, do this more, do that more, without fully understanding why. I was just like, do more. And I think when you're young and you have the flexibility and you have the testosterone going through the roof, like just doing more sometimes is enough at that level. And it's like people always ask me what advice do you give to young athletes, and it's just like I literally say, do more. Whatever it is, just do it more. If you're doing 10K runs, do two of them, or if you or split them into three fives, like make it 15 somehow, like find a way to do more. And I think that work ethic just came from wanting to be better all the time. Now, unfortunately, I found struggled to transfer that into academia, but
But you still
um,
graduated with the first class, didn't you, in medical
that
sciences?
was in my medical sciences degree. That was that out.
It's still a first class in a medical sciences degree.
Yes, but I don't think you understand. There was 20 medics from my year intercalated, so it's called an intercalated. We do another degree, so we essentially just go into a final year degree, and we have to complete a few extra modules and all their final year modules and do a dissertation and a thesis. They were in 7 hours a week, sure. It's like a holiday. It's lovely. And then the exams, you just learnt all these answers and then just went and spat them out in the page. It was grand. Out of the 20 of us, I think 19 of us got a first class honours. So you didn't want to be that one. So there was a bit of pressure on.
But there's
So
that competitive work ethic and competitive streak again, though.
a little, but like I got a first by a little bit. I could have got a first by a lot more.
A first is a first. It doesn't matter.
Is it anymore? I don't know. I don't know if people are too interested in academia as much anymore. I think now it's coming off the back of I think my Olympic medal would open more employment opportunities than a first class honours, to be honest.
Well, not everybody can be an Olympic bronze medalist, so there's lots
Oh,
of
but I
people.
even think like elite level sport or high
Yeah.
level sport shows a lot more now about a character and work ethic. And I think the world is changing to really fully understand what a person has to do to perform at that level. I think whenever I was coming up, it was very misunderstood. It was kind of like, oh, you're messing around with all that all the time. You're not giving this full enough attention. Whereas I think now employers, maybe not in the healthcare era, because healthcare is very different and specific and individualized. But I think in like general, like postgraduate education and graduate entry jobs, I think the employers are really focusing and valuing commitment and interaction in sport for, like, as we said earlier, like that teamwork, just the ability to learn and adapt, the ability to work hard, probably the ability to work outside of a 9 to 5 as well, and the ability to give more and be wanting to be part of a team and to be successful. I think that want to be successful is like, if you want your project to be successful, the company to be successful, yourself to be successful, you'll push and you'll drive. I think that's being so much more valued on an employer level. that it's far more valuable to them than a first class honours.
I wanted to come back just a little bit back to when you started rowing, because as a sport, it is one of the toughest in the world. You talked there about, wanting to go faster, wanting to run harder, wanting to be better all the time when you were doing say, the hockey time trials and the cross country. But at what point did you realize that you had the ability to be an extremely good and successful rower? How long when you got into the sport? Because you're only in it about, I'd say, is it 11 years now or so? Was it 2014 or so? You kind of
Yeah,
took up the
this is the
sport?
start of the 11th year, yeah,
Yeah.
from November last
And
year.
you've
Yeah.
been at two Olympics.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible.
It was impressive at the first Olympics, but now that's not as impressive. Yeah, like early on, I knew my times in the rowing machine were good, but I knew I had a lot of development and a lot of difficulties ahead, especially within the structure and the framework of Rowing Ireland in the country. It was very much aimed at lightweight rowing, so it was very much set up for lightweights, and there was very little pathway. Since 2008, the Athens Olympics, the heavyweight men just dried up in Ireland, and there was nothing then until we sort of tried to create a bit of a pathway in 2018. There was very little activity within the rowing scene at that stage for heavyweight men. And I found myself plateauing a lot when I was in college, falling in and out of love with rowing, finding myself very frustrated because, I was going down to the Irish trials every year, at the start coming fifth, sixth, then second, then winning it again, then winning it again, then being like, right, I'm now winning the rowing machine, the trials, the assessments, everything. I was like, when is someone going to be like, right, come you with us and we'll take you to the next step? Because at this stage, I was winning British universities, Irish universities, and I was like, oh, I'm stuck. Where's the next level? And at that stage, it wasn't around, and it wasn't until there was a guy, an Italian performance director, came in 2017, towards that sort of 2017, 2018 transition, that winter time, where someone really came to me and was like, here, why has no one invited you down to Cork full time? And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, will you come? And I was like, well, no, I'm in my final year of medicine now. I've been at this, 5 years and nobody's been interested. Why are you bothering now? So I found that a hard mentality switch then to go from I'm getting ready to go and start work this summer to, swapping back to rowing. But yeah, that competitiveness was nearly a negative at that stage because I got frustrated and fell out with rowing multiple times. There was one year I emailed the performance director himself, and we had our medical elective at the end of our fourth year of college, and I was due to go to Malawi to a hospital in Blantyre that like specialised in infectious diseases and was linked to Liverpool University. He was doing a bit of research, and our clinical director in Queens had worked there for several years, and he had recommended it, and we were booked to go, and then there was a bit of traveling being done around South Africa and stuff afterwards, and really excited. But last chance, I was like, a friend of mine was going in the under 23 lightweight men's four, which was non-Olympic at the time, and he was heading down to Cork, and he was going to do his elective in Belfast and then move to Cork and get ready for the World Championships in the lightweight four in 2017, which was in Sarasota. So I emailed this director and I said, I laid it out. I had the email in my inbox and I laid it out and I was like, look, I'm due to head away, but I can also stay and I can move it to Cork because technically it's a different country. No matter what your political beliefs are, it's a different country. So I was like, I can go and do my elective in Cork. I'll experience another country's healthcare system. I'll be in Cork training. You can show me things, teach me, whatever, bring me on. But do you see that as a potential benefit? Would you take that on? The World Championships are coming up. Could that be something I could develop towards? And I got an email back saying, no, enjoy your time in Africa. All the best. So at that stage, then I not didn't throw the toys out of the pram or anything, but I was like, here, do you know what? I hit the limit here, the ceiling. That's it. So I went off to Africa, had a great summer for myself. Took, I'd say, over 11 or 12 weeks completely away from rowing. I found an old rowing machine in Malawi University for some reason and dusted it out. It cleaned out all the mess out of it and spruced it up. The gym probably should have owed me a few quid, and I did the odd bit on it, but was mostly just doing a bit of weights. But I kept myself fit. And it was only whenever I came back then afterwards that I sort of started coming down to the boat club, going out in a single again and started enjoying it again. But at that stage, like I was at the limit of frustration with rowing. So that heavyweight pathway was only developed late. And if that hadn't been developed, if they'd kept the same performance director and hadn't swapped to the new guy, I'd say I'd be sitting here as one, two, three, four, couple just about a year or two off consultancy, having probably a grand old life, but nowhere near the experiences that I've had.
Rowing itself as a sport, what do you enjoy about it? Because it is a
Like,
fierce, tough sport. But surely be to God, there has to be some part of it that makes you want to go to Cork, to
um,
be in the training centre, to get up in the morning, to train really hard, to train for so many hours. It's just, it's such a tough, tough sport.
it is that just wanting to get faster. That's literally it. It's that
But
runner's
you could
high.
become a cyclist or a triathlete or a swimmer.
Well,
And
I
they're
don't
all
know.
tough sports
I
as well,
didn't
to be
I didn't
fair.
have the exposure. I didn't have the exposure. And like cycling's not easy either. Swimming
No.
is tough too. Triathlon's very tough. There are some of sports that aren't as tough. But those sprint endurance especially is very, very difficult. And especially now that like previously, soccer was professional and this was professional, that was professional, and they were doing it full time. Now every athlete that's at a national level is pretty much full time. The level of all those sports, even though, cycling's lucrative enough if you're making Tour de France teams or whatever, triathlon's not bad too. They're all offering like lucrative sponsorship deals, exposure, etc. Because that's what they bring to the table, exposure for sponsorship deals. Whereas rowing's not in that category. So I find rowers suffer for less, if that makes sense, which is
Mm.
why I think it makes it the harder sport.
Mm.
Um, like, yeah, I think that's what makes rowing a bit more miserable. But like you said, why do you do it? Like, it's because, that runner's high, you get that in rowing times 10 at the end of every session. Like there's just such a like I stepped away from training a little bit recently, like doing very alternative training, cycling a lot, doing a bit of running, a bit of weights, carrying a few injuries just from overworking, not looking after the body as much, not appreciating how much recovery time I had when I was rowing full time compared to now. So I've only recently started getting back in the rowing machine. I finished a pretty tough session yesterday and I finished it and I was like, oh, that feels class. I was like, just remember this feeling. And I was like, try and remember this feeling for the next time when you're like, oh, I don't want to go on the machine for 90 minutes, 2 hours. I was like, just remember now, remember that remember this feeling. Don't give it time to fade in between. Because when you give it time to fade in between, it's the feeling of not being able to replicate that effort or that time or whatever in between. We just have to remember the feeling. So I think that feeling of finishing and the accomplishment that you get, the satisfaction when you've hit a time or done a session, is what keeps you going in any sport.
Those good endorphins definitely help to motivate you to just keep getting fitter and stronger and faster. You talk about a tough session. Physically, rowing is a tough sport, but also mentally, it's a tough sport. So, how do you conquer the mental toughness? How do you stay on top of being mentally fit to actually sit in the boat, to work with your teammate, and to train and race extremely hard at such a high level?
How do I say this the PC way? You just have to be able to hurt yourself. That's it. If you can't, there's no point. You can just enjoy the sport and row recreationally, but you're not gonna just naturally be class. It's never not gonna hurt. It's like, oh yeah, grand. If you can do a 8 minute 2,000 meters, yes, okay. If you get fitter, you can still do an 8 minute 2,000 meters, and it'll feel easier. But your 8 minute 2,000 meters will feel like 11 out of 10. Then whenever you can do a 7:30, it'll feel like 11 out of 10. And when you can do 7 minutes, it'll also feel like 11 out of 10. 6:30 is 11 out of 10. 6 minutes is 11 out of 10. 5:50 is, your effort, your energy, the amount of hurt stays the same. You just
Get
are
faster.
faster. Yeah,
Yeah.
you still
Yeah.
have to put the same amount of effort, the same amount of hurt, the same amount of pain into the session. You just finish a bit quicker, or you can go further in the same time frame. That's it. If you think it's going to get easier and easier and easier to get faster, you're in la la land. Whatever sport you're doing, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Like if you're a power lifter, 100 kilos will feel easy after a while, but when 100 kilos feels easy, you should be doing 150 to get the
Yeah.
same stimulus. So I think it's as long as you can as long as you can come to terms with the fact that it will always hurt and it'll always be sore and it'll always be hard work, but you have to understand that the process is necessary for the destination.
I would never have used a rowing machine in the gym ever. Would never really have used it, even at times when I'd been injured and stuff. But I actually am a small bit injured at the moment. I haven't been able to run for the past 5 weeks. So I've started doing weight training in the gym, but I've actually gotten on the erg machine and I
Yeah.
was doing like 5 minutes and I thought I was brilliant. And then I was like, no, 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 I'm going to do 10 minutes of my warm up. And now I'm doing 15 minutes. And I think I'm mighty, but it bloody hurts. It's worse than running and cycling. I think personally, now I'm useless. And I'd hate to tell you what distance I was doing in my 15 minutes because you'd laugh at me. But actually, there's something tough but therapeutic about it.
Mm.
Don't know what it is. Like running on the treadmill is horrendous. I hate it. But I actually look forward to going in and sitting on the rowing machine and doing 15 minutes, even though I'm kind of battering myself to do it, if you know what I mean.
It's very rhythmical.
Yeah.
There's a lot of timing and rhythm in it that if you can get into the timing and the rhythm, as long as you can keep the carbohydrates coming in, you can just keep going all day. The only thing we get to the stage there where your physiology is at this point where we said to the lads, there was one day we were like, oh, we'll do 28 kilometers on the machine. And then we got to 28 and we were all looking at each other. No one was going to stop. So we kept going. And then we were at 32. And then we're kind of side eyeing each other because you're all lined up facing the same way. So we're kind of side eyeing. Well, how far are you going? Like, when are you going to stop? And then one of the lads would be like, well, I still have a half a bottle of carbs there, or I'm not too bad. And then one of the lads would be like, bit of a blister coming here now in this right bum cheek. Might see how we are in 2K. The only thing that was stopping us was running out of carbohydrates. So cramp, essentially electrolytes and carbohydrates, and blisters. So
Oh,
we were like, our physiology, we're in a nice rhythm. We can go all day. It's
yeah.
like as long as we
Yeah.
have no blisters that are going to get worse and potentially get infected, and enough carbohydrates and electrolytes, we'll just power on. And then one of the girls' coaches, so when we got to like 36 to 38 kilometers, one of the girls, the two lads, I gave up a while ago because I ran out of carbs, and then the two lads were going, Ross and Dara, my partner, they were going, and the girls' coach was going nuts, being like, "We were supposed to be on these machines 20 minutes ago. Please get off, get off." And they were like, "Oh, can't hear you, can't hear you." Like, pretend they couldn't hear me. And he was going,
The
"We're
Dibbles.
very
I'm surprised. I'm
Italian."
surprised you didn't go and take the bottle of carb from you. That would have stopped you.
It would have stopped them in about 15 minutes, when they ran out, but they would have kept going. They were,
And so that segues nicely into two other points I want to talk about. The first is nutrition. You guys take on a serious amount of calories and food. Talk to us a little bit about the nutrition and the type of food that you're eating to fuel the sessions. And even now, though, when you're in like an off season or maybe taking it handy, what level of nutrition are you actually focusing on?
uh, so while we're full tilt, just everything, anything you can get in. I'd say there's a rarity of 2 days in the week where I will actually hit the target that I need. And for me, that's quite challenging and causes a lot of issues because I get a lot of rib stress injuries, because as your calories per kilogram drop, the hormone levels drop, your estrogen, you resorb your calcium because your parathyroid drops. Anyway, we got a nutritionist on board, and her bit of advice is just eat more.
But like, what are you eating?
Just more.
Eat today. What did you eat today?
More, whatever it is. Well, today doesn't matter because I'm a day off and I'm not, in full tilt training. But in full tilt training, she was just like more. And my biggest issue with that, with nutrition, was timing around training because as you said, you have that rock, you compress the stomach, the rhythm of it. You need to make sure that it's not going to cause stomach upset or reflux. So for me, that was a big factor in how much and when I ate. So I always tried to eat not too much before a session, a lot of intra-session nutrition. So a lot of gels and powders with electrolytes. And then post-session would be the big one. After the first session of the day, huge, big, like brunch type, couple of bagels, couple of rounds of toast, rashers, avocado, eggs, halloumi, cheese, whatever, all of it on. And then afterwards, coffee, packet of biscuits, like evening, then be huge big meal. There was what you would do, the full pack of pasta. This was what I was chatting to someone the other night. You do the full pack of pasta. You'd maybe have six or 800 grams of mince. You put in the kidney beans, the tomatoes, you'd have the sweet corn, you put half a pack of mozzarella cheese, you'd be put everything, bulk the thing out, like whatever you can get in there, fire it all in a salad bowl because a normal bowl can't take it. Salad bowl, sour cream or creme fraiche on top of that, mix it through, and then sometimes there was a one stage where the nutritionist was just like, "Have you heard of double cream?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Put it in everything." I was like, "What do you mean put it in everything?" She's like, "Put it in soup, put it in pasta, put it in whatever Thai curry, put it in, just put it in." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Put double cream in everything." And then we would have our nighttime smoothies. Sometimes myself and a guy Ross Corrigan live together, and I always say me and my housemate, and he goes mad. And he texts me afterwards if he ever hears. He goes, "Housemate, you know my name." But anyway, so we'll give it a wee shout out now. I'll let him know to listen to this. And we used to make these smoothies at night. We get the new big NutriBullet. Other blenders are available. Big, massive, big NutriBullet. We put a big block of like vanilla ice cream just in strawberry sauce, bit of protein powder, frozen berries, and then some whole milk, and then sometimes a bit of double cream.
How,
Blend
how
it up.
many how many calories a day were you eating? Did you eat low?
We were trying to get to 8,000 a day.
Holy God. And like literally everything you've said there is like sugar, 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 sugar. There's lots of sugar, lots of fat, lots of sugar. How did
But
you
yeah,
sleep?
fine, like a baby.
Really?
Sure, you're so wrecked.
I know, but the amount of sugar in your system, was it not keeping you awake at night?
No,
No, you're so wrecked.
no, no, no. And I would very much backload my calories in the day, which was one of the things that the nutritionist actually worked with me the most about was trying to get more throughout the day. So then I wasn't backloading as much. We weren't terribly worried about insulin spikes because your pancreas should be able to monitor and move with that. And over time, you train your body to be able to handle those kinds of nutrition. And you're in a deficit. You need the calories. Like it's not like, oh, I tell you a funny story. I moved home for COVID to work in the hospital here when the first Olympics was cancelled. And we were on a full training program. Like I was waking up doing 24 kilometers in the row machine in the garage in the morning, coming back and doing a full weight session and then intervals in the evening after a work shift. So I was training flat out, doing the full program, well, probably about 80% of the program. And I was eating a tub of Ben and Jerry's every night, or Morelli's ice cream, or a bag of M&S cookies, like, or Dunstores like 4 or 5 cookies, 400 or 500 calories each, eating iced buns, everything, packets of biscuits. After a training session, the whole thing would go. And I got this. My father passed the pancreatic cancer, so my mum was very obsessed about how much sugar you put in for pancreas, pancreas, pancreas. And she kept being like, "You're gonna wreck your pancreas, you're gonna wreck your pancreas." And I was like, "Well, all right, then it's fine, I'll stop." So I stopped eating the buns, stopped eating the ice cream, stopped eating the cookies. I dropped about 7 kilograms in a week, I'd say. And my face was like, I was walking around like this, and then she was like, "What's happened?" And I was like, "What do you mean what's happened?" She goes, "Look at you, you're so gaunt. You look like you're," and I was like, "You told me to stop eating the sugary stuff." So I went to work and I came back and the kitchen table was covered in buns. There was ice cream in the freezer. There was, I was like, "What's this?"
Can't beat the Irish mammy.
Get that in you, get that in you, get that in you. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Do you want 2 steaks? Do you want this? Like 4 or 5. So she then clocked, you can't be healthy. You have to fuel.
Yeah.
So it's not about eating chicken salads and brown bread. It's about calories in, calories out, the very basics of nutrition. And our nutritionist Sharon and Laura have the same mentality. They're like, if you're eating 8,000 calories and you have your couple of main meals in the day where you eat good whole food and then the rest is sugar and crap on top, she's like, there's not a nutritional marker that you're not going to hit. And we got our bloods checked, for vitamin D, iron, all that every now and then. And sometimes you would have to take the odd bit of supplementation for those, but apart from that, there's no micronutrient or macronutrient that you were missing when you're getting that amount of food into you.
And when it's really tough on the rower, right? You're training away. Is there a food or is there a feed after a really tough session that you're like in the middle of it going, when I'm finished this now, I am definitely having the carton of Ben and Jerry's? Or was there like a go-to food that you'd be like, I'm after killing myself here now. I am having this. I don't care what it's going to take to get to it, but I'm having this for food afterwards.
No, because we would always just have what we want anyway.
No, but like that you'd be craving in particular, like a feed a
Oh
steak or a
well, okay, right,
burger
right.
or
There
like,
was one thing that we all love, and it was very difficult to get, I have to say. in because we do a lot of training camps in Italy. Now, the Italians' food, obviously, they're fabulous at food, very pasta heavy, etc. They love sushi and they love, for some reason, kebabs and pizza and pasta. Do you see if you try and get a Mexican in Italy? I challenge anyone outside of a major city. I got found one in Rome once, a burrito place. You can't get Mexican food, and I absolutely adore Mexican food. Like it's up there with my favorite. Sometimes we would go to the all you can eat sushi, and they would ask us to leave. But the the Mexican food thing was a real issue. Like we were living in Cork, and nearby where we are, we're about 30 minutes outside the city in the reservoir there in the Lee Valley. And there was a Mexican place in town. There was two or three of them. And the odd time we'd be like, yeah. And then we're like, well, yeah, we'll make the 30-minute drive in. We'll fight for the parking. We'll do whatever, and we'll just go and get one. So Mexican food was the one. We'd be like, sometimes we'd be like, oh, we go tonight. And we're like, yeah, we go tonight. And we go in. We get like a burrito bowl, a burrito, and then we get, and then you go for ice cream and all afterwards. But like that was it. You'd be going two or three burritos at once. We always said the first cookie is nice, the fifth cookie is hard work.
Yeah, yeah. But even the time it'd take you to eat all that food every day.
We would just because you'd be trying to recover in the afternoons. So like the afternoons would be trying to replenish, and then we would have a rest day up until around February, March time, and then we would split and we would have two half days off then. So we would always have a Sunday off through the main winter season. Well, most of the time. Not always, wasn't guaranteed. So if there's a day of bad weather, they might give us another random afternoon off and then make us train on a Sunday morning if we were guaranteed bliss, perfect water, calm conditions. And on the day off, your appetite wouldn't be there so much because you wouldn't be doing the training. And those were the days where we had to force the food in because those were the days you didn't really want to eat that much. And we would always have to be like, we'd be like, "Look, come on, look, today's the day where you need to, any deficit over the week." So you would say, for example, you'd be trying to hit 7.5 every day all week. And then say for those 6 days, if you maybe were constantly coming in 500 under, 500 under, 500 under, then you'd be like, right, today I need to be in surplus of three. So we'd be eating like a full split cake. There was one day I had a whole M&S birthday cake, 4,700 calories. I had half after the first session and then half after the second session. And then we went and did the third session at the end. And I'd say it wasn't a bother to me. And people were like, do you not feel sick? And I was like, I genuinely, my body just, whatever calories went in, it just sucked them up. It didn't even bother me. Didn't even feel it. Whereas now I couldn't even dream. Half a slice, I'd be like, oh, no. But you see, if I did 30K on the row machine and come in, I'd pox the whole cake. Not a bother.
So then when we look at trying to balance the rowing and your medical career as well, a lot of people have that contacted us about the podcast when they heard you were coming on. That was the most frequently asked question.
And that's my
How do you
most
get the
frequently
balance?
asked question ever
Yeah.
from everyone. Doctors in the hospital, people on Instagram, it's the biggest question they all ask. I started at one stage when I came back in 2022. I hadn't really rowed after I took a full year pretty much and just worked and I trained away by myself. And when we came back to the World Championships that year, we didn't do great. We still qualified for a bit of government bursary funding, but not a full amount. So I was like, what'll I do here? I was like, oh, I'd start up a bit of online coaching, right? And I'm not a rowing coach. And I said from the start, I was like, I'm not teaching you how to row a boat. I was like, but I'm fairly proficient on the rowing machine. At that stage, I had the 6K, the 2K. I had most of the Irish national erg records at the time. I've lost one since to a fella Fanon Tolan, and fair play to him, he beat it well. But I was like, I'll just say this, I'll help them. And you know what? I got a few, and I have a few still that I do a bit of online, more men. They don't want me to teach them how to get better on the rowing machine. They want me to teach them how to manage their life and get enough training in, because that's what people want. Anyone can work hard for a day or two. People are struggling to work hard and balance it for months, years, like on end. And the hard thing about social media is, I put stuff up on social media, but take it with a pinch of salt, most of it. I don't give medical advice. I don't give anything. It's just a fun, abstract version of some of my days. And it looks like I'm Superman every day, but I'm not.
Actually, somebody did mention you being Clark Kent in one of the messages.
Good. Someone called me Spider-Man the other day and I took great offense. I told her that, and then she changed her mind. A lovely girl in the hospital, but that balance issue is what people struggle with the most. Was the world now is all social media, and you see everyone achieving all these wonderful things all the time, and you don't really understand the truth behind, the work that goes into it, or maybe even the team of people they have supporting them. And that balance element is what people are seeking the most, that I find in the world. They want to be able to have a side hustle and a sport and a career. They People aren't they don't have the same satisfaction with just one anymore. They want to do what other people are doing, and they want to have balance and to do it all. So I think I kind of stumbled into it out of a necessity because of my own inner personal competitiveness in both medicine and rowing. And I struggle with it myself. I stepped away. I spoke to a few sports psychologists when I was going through university at different times now, very reluctantly, because I was a big, strong man and I didn't want advice from anyone. And it took a lot for me to lower those stupid barriers that I had placed around myself to sort of take the advice. But when I did, I really held on to it, and I created some simple rules that I used to go forward. And now, luckily, I've had some great opportunities to go in and give some corporate talks about mental resilience, about balance, about well-being. And it's all from life lessons you've learned. But I've fallen 100 times for every step I've climbed, along the way. And I've got it wrong a lot. But whenever I find myself with a great motivation, like Tokyo Olympics being cancelled and having to come back and do 8 months of full-time work, night shifts, longs, weekends, everything, and then also having a coach that wasn't really letting up on me, because he was like, the Olympics is still coming. I want these numbers. I want these screens. I want to see your data every day. I want to see it. He even like sometimes zoomed in and watched me, and I had an earphone in here with him giving me technical pointers with the laptop up beside me in the garage. And he was like, yeah, good rhythm. Now try and get a bit more length, rock over a bit. And I was like, after 20 minutes, I was like, okay, that's enough. Like, dude, thing off. Because it's a lot for someone to be in your ear all the time. And you're stressed enough. But like that necessity, I had to, because at that stage, Daire had jumped into the boat with Ronan. They won a bronze medal in the European Championships. This is all gobbledygook to people who don't know rowing, but the rowing, you qualified the boat for the Olympics, not the people. So we qualified two as a boat, not two as people. So then I was like, right, I'm going to have to come back, and there's going to be a fight on for this seat. There's going to be a trial. It's not guaranteed. So that pressure environment that I had to put myself into, I was like, look, you can't take this day off, whether you want to or you don't. Now, there was sometimes it had to be like, right, I had a thing called I called the kindness rule. And it was like, just sometimes if I was literally falling apart, sick, not sleeping, getting feeling a bit of an injury coming along, I invoked the kindness rule. And I was like, right, today you have to be kind to your body. Otherwise, next week you're going to be cruel to your mind. So I was like, you have to just take today as a kindness day. So I was like, today is off. And I would just ignore the coach's phone calls for that day. And then on the off day, then the next week, I'd maybe do an extra session and send it through to him and be like, oh, by the way, did an extra one today. And then that kept him happy, kept me injury free, kept me working hard, because you have to have that ebb and flow as well in that balance, which is one of the hardest things. You have to have a little bit of rigidity and forward planning, but you also have to be able to, if the plan doesn't work, the whole thing doesn't fall apart.
Yeah, you've got to be able to be agile within what you're doing so that you can switch things around or move things, or
Yeah.
if your working shifts get changed, having to
Yeah.
to figure out your training and the food. God, I won't go back to the food again, but I'd be obsessed with the food. You mentioned there about the Olympics that you qualify the boat, but you don't qualify the people. So
Uh,
that was Tokyo you were talking about initially there, wasn't it, after
yes,
COVID?
yes, but it's the
Um,
same for every Olympics. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, the boat qualifies and not the person.
Talk to me about Paris, about the excitement going into it. Tokyo, you got to a semi-final, but the pressure was on for Paris this year. You guys were definite medal contenders going into the games.
Yeah, no one else really seemed to think so, but myself and Daire were quite committed to the fact. But I think the partnership that I found with Daire was fabulous. He's a very down to earth, very quiet guy, very focused, very determined, very competitive in his own way.
Are you
And
similar? Are you similar in personality?
I think we were a lot similar than we would ever give ourselves credit for. I think we have a lot of similar desires from the sport. He's now first year medicine as well in UCD, so maybe we're a lot more similar than we think. Although maybe he's doing it out of spite because he was sick of hearing about me being a doctor and an Olympian. We'll find out. He seems to be enjoying it, so he seems to be having a great time. But the journey into Paris, we knew we won medal after medal after medal after medal from initially coming together. And, we were building momentum. We were feeling good. The boat speed was very good. We had a few hiccups and we seemed to then test the mentality of the group and ourselves. And we always seemed to come out of those tests well. And that gave me confidence that we were going to be able to battle with the pressure of the Olympics quite well. And then coming into the final camp, we had a few hiccups. The guy I live with, will not say his name this time, punched me. He thinks it strengthened me because it meant I was forced to be on the bike for 3 weeks, and I did some serious kilometers on that bike.
Why did he
But
punch you?
we were messing.
It wasn't like a bust up over the washing up or anything, was
No,
it?
no, 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 no. We were messing. And then we went on. So I ended up on the bike for 4 weeks. We had the skip competition in Switzerland. We then went to the next one in Poland. We won it. So he takes credit for anything since the rib as him giving me mental resilience and determination. So then coming into Paris, the boats got smashed one evening. We woke up to a storm, 5 a.m. in the morning, went down. My single skull was smashed and our double skull was smashed. Everyone else's boat was absolutely fine. So we had to get another emergency boat sent up from the factory in Italy up to our training camp in Italy, which was lucky enough. But our coach had to do a 12-hour round trip with a trailer to pick it up. And then coming into the Olympics, with all that happening, we were still hitting great times, and I was like, right, this is good. This is a good sign. We've already had our problems. So I was like, now we can deal with whatever happens, no matter what it is. And then after the first race in Paris, we already knew the course. We'd gone for a look earlier in the year. We were comfortable with the hotel. We weren't in the village. We weren't in the hustle and bustle. We kept to ourselves. We were just going through the motions and we did our heat and we won. And when I say the races don't get easier, that race was easy. I don't know what it was, the adrenaline, the crowd, anything, but we crossed that line and I turned around and I was like,
And
this
you
is
guys had clear water behind you in
yeah,
that
yeah, and
that
it's
race.
very unique in rowing. You go backwards, sitting
Mm.
down, so you can see everyone when you're winning. And I remember be like, right, everyone's going to start pushing through us now, and then we just moved away again. It's like, right, they're all going to start coming now, and then we moved away again. It's like, right, hold on a bit of energy. They're going to start coming soon, and then we moved away again. And we crossed the line. And I was like, I just turned around. And I was like, here, lad, that was unreal. And from then, I was like, right, there's a medal to be got here. And I think in our heads, we were thinking silver. And I think the night before the final, we went to bed thinking if we can control the race a bit, if we can control our minds and settle ourselves, there's a medal on the table. We really hoped for a medal. And then I think when we won the medal, we kind of thought, but I think with the race that happened, the Romanians who won it did something that nobody could ever have planned. And then I think we were a lot closer to the Dutch than we were probably on the Dutch where we thought we would be. We thought we would have a bit more of a sprint where we were, but Romania kind of threw the whole toys out of the pram for everybody, and then we were all scrambling. So I think we came out of it where we needed to be, and it's a fabulous experience. And then Paris itself was fabulous. The Irish supporters were fab. It's just the whole experience was fantastic.
And then, of course, the contrast between Tokyo and Paris, away from even the medal, the crowd support and everything that was there, the family, the friends, everything. And then I love that photograph of you walking out onto the champions stage.
There's a free bar in behind there, and you're there from 1 o'clock, and we weren't out till after 7, so we were all having a great time.
The photograph of you guys walking out. Who else was out with you that night?
All the rowers were out, and
Yeah,
then Daniel and Reese were out as well.
it was just amazing to watch. You get goosebumps.
Fantastic. It's an experience I don't think will ever be replicated. We always, whenever I seen them the plan that you seen it on social media months before, I was like, oh, that. And then it was, and the best thing about it was all the other rowers came with us. And we managed to get them all in behind. So we all got a +2. And then I don't know how, one of our physios somehow then just showed up with everybody. So we were all the rowers were there who won the medals, plus all the rowers who came with us in the team, and we were all there was a bar, there was wines, there was Coca-Cola sponsored the whole, so it was, and we were just having a few drinks, catching up. All the pressure of the last 3 years was gone, and it was just a great time to meet people and have. It was just a fabulous, surreal experience. Surreal.
In the seconds crossing the finish line, what was the immediate emotional response after you had finished the race, the final?
What the frig happened there? Where did those Romanians come from? So that was genuinely what I was thinking. I think I was vindicated. I was very much like happy that we had achieved what we set out to achieve. albeit it was the lesser of the three. They always say the gold medalist is delighted, the bronze medalist is over the moon, and the silver is pissed off. But I think we were a little mix of both. I think we hit our potential and we missed it all at the same time. But I think with the challenges and the unpredictability of rowing and the fact that it takes so much timing and teamwork and to replicate performance when there's so many variables over timing and everything, that I think we achieved our best
Yeah.
result of the
It
day.
was phenomenal. And then to see the response that you guys all got when you came home to Dublin to the heroes welcome, I mean, that must have just been incredible.
Yeah, it was great. Now, like that was Kelly Harrington's homecoming and retirement party, and it was great to be part of it and great to be up on the stage and see O'Connell Street packed out. But we were very much aware that that wasn't for us truly. But it was great to be part of it. And then we all had our own little individual. We had one in Clonmel, which was class, and the Irish people since have just been incredible. Like I've had people come up to me and work and be like, "Excuse me, doctor," and I'm like, "Oh, he's gonna ask me where is this thing or when are my results back?" And he's like, "You're the rower fella there, aren't you? Flipping brilliant!" And chatting. And I was like, "Oh, thank God, he's gonna ask me." So I thought he was gonna ask me something I didn't know.
And have you perfected your autograph or are you in Dr. Scroll?
It was fabulous, and now it's back to the scroll. So,
Or you want to work on that now?
well, I had it perfect from all the wee fellas, but I don't know if I have an example of it near me. Nothing that I can show on camera. But
And
no,
let's talk a little bit about triathlon. So you got
oh
injured
yeah.
because your housemate, your great friend, gave you a punch in the rib, and it's his fault you got the bronze medal at the Olympics.
Well, it's his fault I didn't get the gold. Let's put it that way.
Oh, there was a nasty dig there. Okay.
Really joking. I'm really joking. That's my response to him though when he tries to take credit.
So you'd done loads of miles on the bike when you were injured with the rib. Where did the idea come from for triathlon and for Ironman?
It was kind of something that got out of hand.
Tell me
Uh,
more.
he said, "Do you want to do an Ironman?" And I said,
Who, the
"No."
guy that punched you?
Yes, we were living
Okay.
together. We're very close. He was like, "Will we do an Ironman?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Oh, come on, do an Ironman with me." I was like, "No." He's like, "We'll do a half." And I was like, "No." And then he's like, "Why?" And I was like, "You don't own a bike." And then he was like, "What?" And I was like, "I'm not spending 400 or 500 euros on a ticket for an Ironman, and you don't own a bike." So then he said, "If I buy a bike, will you go?" And I was like, "Yeah, if you buy a bike, I'll do an Ironman." And then a month later, he was like, "Oh, if you booked that Ironman?" I was like, "Have you bought a bike?" And he was like, "No." And then he went and got his laptop, and it's sitting in Italy. He flicked it up and he bought a Canyon Aero.
He didn't buy a cheap bike, he bought a nice
No,
bike.
well, yeah, well, he wanted to make sure he was getting it because he was like, I want to get into a bit of cycling, no, after the Olympics, blah, blah, blah. So he bought a Canyon, and then as soon as he hit click to buy it, I was like, "Did you just buy that?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Flip's sake." So then I had to get my laptop, and then I booked, and then I got a place, and I was like, "Oh, are you sure there's definitely places left?" And
But
then
why 70.3? Why not start with the shorter race or a local race? Why
I
go
did the
straight?
shorter one.
70.3 isn't a short
Yeah,
race.
that's the
That's
half.
yeah, but it's a middle distance. I mean, the short race is a sprint. You could have done a 750-meter swim, a 20K bike, and a 5K run. You'd have been home before
Actually,
lunchtime.
nobody's impressed by that.
Oh, stop it. Yes, they are.
Well,
Stop.
everyone I told, they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I was, "Oh, I'm going to Spain to do an Ironman." And then they're like, "Oh," and I was like, "No, only a half." And they're like, "Oh, only a half."
Yeah, you're not allowed to get the tattoo if you do a half,
But
you
I
know.
wouldn't get the tattoo at all now. Tattoos wouldn't
Do you
be
have
for
the
me.
Olympic rings
Nope.
tattoo? No.
Mm-mm.
Are you going to get them?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
It's just not a.
It's just
It's
not a
just not
thing.
something.
Just not
Yeah,
a thing.
tattoos have never been a thing in my life, and I always thought about it. I was like, if I ever get one, that would be the one. And then I said after Tokyo, I was like, "No, no, no, I'll not get one." And I was like, if I win a medal, I'll get one." And after this, I was like, "No, no, no, if I win a gold medal, I'll get."
Okay, so we digress from triathlon. So you did
Yeah,
Ironman
sorry.
70.3. How was it?
Um,
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed finishing. I've always been a very strong runner. I used to do a bit of cross country. I used to swim when I was very young, but I have not swam in a very long time. I very naively thought I would be grand, and after Paris was quite sick for quite some time, and not sick sick. I was just like constant colds. I got
Fatigued.
COVID twice, three chest infections, four like upper respiratory tract infections. I was like getting my bloods done because I was like, "What is going on?" And my bloods weren't not like they were a wee bit off, like there was something in the background. And I was like, "Oh, please don't be long COVID." And then finally it has sort of waned now. But at the time, I was like, God, I'm only getting like, I was getting 3 hard days training done, then having to take like 2 days off because I was wrecked. And then there was events and this to go to and that to go to and opportunities and invites and all this stuff. And then we went to Boston the week beforehand as a bit of crack. I went itself and Dara racing a 4-man boat with the Swiss men's pair who won bronze. And that was some fun. But then, you were coming back. So I flew back in from Boston on the Monday and then flew out to Spain on the Wednesday. So I disrespected the race completely. I thought it'd be grand. I was like, oh, I can cycle 120, 140K. I've swam in the sea once for 100 meters to try out my new wetsuit
I
three
did see
weeks
the Instagram
beforehand,
post on that.
and it was horrific. I put my face in the water and I got straight back up like 100 meters later, and I was like, absolutely not. That's like someone punching me in the face with a freeze cannon. So I was like, I hope Spain is warm. So we then packed everything up after that, and I was like, well, the next time I'll have this wetsuit on will be the day of the race. So I kind of went in. I wanted to make sure I could run a half marathon, so I ran one morning here out the front of the house. There was a wee loop. It's 1.38 kilometers, so I went around that a few times, and I ran I think like an hour and 25 minutes. So I was like, that's grand. I can do the half. And then I was like, I can do 90K bike, and I know I could probably do this. I'd done a few swims in the swimming pool, and I was like, I know, but I was stopping, touching the wall, and going again. So I was like, I know I can swim around 2K ish. The furthest I'd ever swam was 2.2. And then we got there on the day. Big storm came the night before, moved all the boys. The swim was 2.7 kilometers. I was swimming along and I was like, I'm flying because the wetsuit had me so buoyant. I was like, I'm flying. This class, I was pulling ankles. I was everything, was throwing elbows. I was flying, skirting the boy. I was like coming in here, putting the boy in my lat, and I was like, oh, I'm like Michael Schumacher. I came around each one, and then I was like, this has been going on a very long time. And I was like, I'm not even at the halfway point. And then I came and I was like, coming along. I was like, I'm busted. It's like, how far is this? I was like, oh, I must be moving some speed. I was like, I'm moving so quick. I feel like, when you just know. I came out
Mm.
the water and looked at my watch. I was like, 43 minutes. I was like, I expected to do that well under 40. And then it came in, went on the bike. The bike destroyed me. It was straight into a 9K climb. Um, I was, and I was getting the gears all wrong. We rented bikes. The setup was too close, and my lower back felt like a disc was going to go. But anyway, we got off the bike and I got into the run, and I was like, oh, finally, the enjoyable part. And then it was on a boardwalk that was sandy, and it was slipping, and it was a bit chaotic. And I was running beside this lad, and I was running away, and he was from Cork, Blackrock Triathlon. I was like, oh, well, bye, how you getting on? He's like, oh, the other big fella not here. And I was like, no, no, no. And he's like, a fair play in the Olympics. I was like, grand. I was like, my watch here is just telling me the overall distance. Do you know how fast we're going? And he's like, you're doing like a 350 something kilometer. And I was like, that's way too fast to succeed later. So I slowed it down, and I was glad I slowed it down because the hamstrings were cramping like mad towards the end. I underhydrated. I learned a lot of lessons, let's say, but I crossed the finish line and I bet all the other rowers who came with us. So I was delighted. But phenomenal experience, fabulous. Really enjoyed
Would
it.
you do
Like
another
really
one?
enjoyed it. I would, yeah,
Would
100%.
you?
Yeah, it cost about 3 grand. It's very expensive. Flip me. But you can see why, like all those roads are closed, the infrastructure they need, the thought put into it, the swim course, the safety, like there's so much involved. And I think because it was our first one, I had to buy a wetsuit, buy a swim hat. So, there's a lot of investment. So I need to dollar cost average my investment now and try and do a few more. And then whenever I get the average price to around €500 per race, I'll just hang up the boots.
Yeah. So you might do an Ironman then, yeah?
I've always said I'd never run a marathon. I don't see the sense in it. It's too far for a
Get you in
human.
row 30 kilometers for the crack with the
Yeah,
lads in
it's
the gym.
non-impact. It's non-impact.
Mm.
I don't see why would you run that far for that long? Take a bicycle. If it's over 30 kilometers, take your bicycle. That's my thought process. But after doing the half, I was like, you know what? Just doing two of those wouldn't be too bad. If you built it up, and I think it's the process of it in my head. So I think if I could know that the impact of training to do the marathon at the end of I think the swim and the bike would be grand. That's just endurance mentality, like physiology. But I think the impact of the run would be the most devastating thing to your body to have to train for. And I understand the concept of triathlon, but I'm a very competitive person, and I struggled with the concept of coming 200th out of 2,000 people. And I was like, why am I not in the top 100? Why did I not do better?
You see, if you had put in the training specific to the triathlon rather than just trying to wing it,
Yeah.
you might have done a little bit better.
One day I was on the Concept 2 bike and then I went for a run afterwards. So I was like, there, that's me
It's a
practicing my
good brick
transition.
session. Good brick
Yeah.
session. There's a great race around the corner from you, really. The top of the Moore Triathlon in August. It's an Olympic distance. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
slightly shorter. So it's 1.5K swim, 40K bike, and a 10K run.
Is Olympic distance a 1.5K swim?
Yeah,
I thought it was a 750-meter swim.
that's a sprint. So you have sprint Olympic, Ironman 70.3 slash middle distance race, and then you have a full distance race slash Ironman.
Oh, I thought it was a 750-meter swim.
No, that's a sprint.
I thought a sprint was like a couple of hundred, like two, three
No,
hundred.
that's a try. See, but
Okay.
you see now you don't have to go too far. So then the cost of entry of the top of the Moore and Triathlon won't be too expensive. And you already have invested everything. You can probably stay in your own bed. So there you go. I've already brought down
I'm thinking
the
I
cost of
need
your
a better
price.
bike. I'm thinking I need a better bike because
Yeah.
everybody has better bikes than me. It's a
It
slippery,
is
slippery
a
slope.
slippery slope, slippery slope.
You see,
But you
when
know what? The
you're
cycling will benefit your rowing, so then you can't complain.
yeah, but when you're rowing, you have the best. When you're rowing for the national team, you have the best of the best. So whenever you're going, we call them the spaceships. So we would be going up the hill, and the spaceships would just go whoop, past us. We're talking about TT bikes.
And the
We were
TTL and
oh,
everything, yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
we need. So we came to the conclusion afterwards that we all needed to go out and buy TT bikes.
I can put you in touch with a great brand. We'll talk
Oh,
afterwards. Yeah.
yeah, we will. But none of us have bought them, but we've decided that that's what we need. Not more training. TT.
Just the bikes. You actually are a triathlete.
Perfect. I'm the
You are a
perfect.
perfect fit for a triathlete.
I'm a
You're
market
into
for the study.
numbers, into your nutrition, you want the best equipment, and you're competitive and you want to have the crack. Come back to the rowing just a minute. What's the plan? Is there a plan? Are you focusing on your medical career for a little bit?
I'm trying to get into the training scheme for emergency medicine to get on the consultant pathway for that. If that doesn't happen, I'd probably be back rowing. So it's not really up to me, it's whether they give me a spot. Obviously, my academics aren't as strong because I've been focusing mostly on rowing for the last while, but I'm trying to build the CV, get some advanced trauma stuff done, get some pediatric life support, get all these additional certificates that you need that strengthen your application. Medicine has gone very competitive, even though they say they're crying out for doctors. There seems to be plenty of them applying for training posts, so it is exceptionally competitive. I had an exam last week, and I've interviews coming up soon for that, so we'll see how that goes. If I don't get in, which is a possibility, then I might be back for the World Championships this year in Singapore and the World Cup series that's in June. But I think a lot of us are taking a year to do something else. So whether that's triathlon or running or whatever for a year, and then next year, if I do get in, next year take the year to work, build the CV, get the clinical experience up, move on the next rung in the career ladder, and then at the end of that, apply for more time away from training to go back for LA. But obviously, that's 2 years away. So much can happen in 2 years. I'm an elderly gentleman now in my
Early 30s.
32 years of life. Rowers can go till their late 30s, 40, 41. Olaf Tufte was at his seventh Olympics at 41 years old. So it's not an impossible dream. I think I've won more Olympics where I can be truly competitive for a gold medal. And then after that, I think you would just be turning up for the t-shirt, really, in comparison to what other athletes can put in. I'm torn because the medicine is now becoming an increasing importance for me. Because I walk in now and I have a certain amount of years as a doctor under me, and I'm still technically at the same similar like SHO, senior SHO level. Whereas, I would love to progress and move up the rungs a little bit and push the career on. But I still feel I have unfinished business with sport or rowing, or maybe this is my chance to swap. But I don't think I would have enough time or energy to move up in any other sport. I think it would be disrespectful to the athletes in those sports if I tried.
But even if you look at Annalise Murphy and the sailing, I mean, she has switched across to cycling and has done very,
Yeah.
very well for herself across in a
Yeah.
second
I
sport.
think domestically you could do well, but one of the best rowers, arguably in the world, Hamish Bond, moved to cycling for a year after Tokyo. He had won 3 gold medals. I'm pretty sure his FTP is something like 460 watts. He's only in the mid 80 kilos, and he won the New Zealand time trial championships. He went to the World Time Trial Championships, and he came back to rowing, and he's like, you just can't compete. He's like I think he came 18th or 20th or something in the world road bike series or TT series or something, and he was like he went in thinking he was going, be class, and he's like I was very good, but he was like realistically, he's like the lads who have been doing that from all ages. He's like even with his engine and his physiology and like he had unbelievable physiology. He was like he struggled a lot.
Mm. A couple just general questions. Where did the interest in medicine come from? Did that come from the family background, or was it just something that was
I wanted to be a vet, and I just thought animals weren't much crack. I did
really
2 years of summer experience where all we did was TB test cattle and neuter cats. And there was some government initiative at the time where you could actually euthanize or spay cats for free, like stray cats that were wandering around farms so that they didn't just have loads and loads and loads and loads of kittens. And then you were ended up with these 20, 30 stray cats that you then had to feed and look after. So there was some the farmer got it paid for, and they got 20 quid if they brought the cat in and got it neutered. Or there was also a scheme where you could get it put down. So there was just a summer of sticking your hand in cow's bum and then killing and neutering cats, and it just was like, oh, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And I was like, I'll have a go with the human stuff. And I went in and I was like, oh, this is much more pleasant. I'll have a go with this. And then I was like, and sure, if if I don't do well on my exams, I'll do something else that's sport related or exercise related. But I didn't. I managed to do all right.
of all of your achievements, regardless of sport, life, medicine, whatever it is, what are you most proud of?
I can draw Super S.
Interesting.
Mm.
Do you want to do it there?
I can do it in 3D as well. Now, 3D is difficult. It's sometimes I have to sometimes think about it because you can put the slant the wrong way and then you're stuck.
Philip Doyle is just drawing a Super S in 2D/3D.
Oh no, definitely 3D.
Definitely 3D. Oh, wow. Okay, you definitely have to send me a picture of that. Who has been the biggest influence in your life?
I think I've had multiple. I think that's one of my strengths is I can pull from many influences. When I was younger, it was the hockey players above me. Then whenever I went to university, it was my rowing coach. My parents obviously in the background all the time, not always positive influence. Sometimes you learn from negative experiences. But I think I've had multiple, and I think if you've had a singular focus or a singular motivator or influence, then you end up on a one-track path and you don't get that whole range. You don't become a well-rounded, balanced person. So I think the fact that I've been able to take so many is one of my strengths.
And finally, what excites you about the future?
That's an interesting question. I'm actually genuinely very excited. I've just bought a house and I can't wait to put the furniture in it and just sit down and have a cup of coffee and be like, this is my house. That's lovely.
Well, congratulations on your new house.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Philip, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I didn't think I was going to laugh as much as I did. I'm not sure I know much more about rowing than what I did when I started, but I've certainly enjoyed having the chats with you. And hopefully, I will see you at the finish line of a triathlon in the future. And you'd never know, you might see me on the banks of a river somewhere cheering you on for a rowing competition. But thank you so much for your time and the very best of luck with everything. Looking forward to seeing what unfolds for you in the future, and enjoy the cup of coffee in the new house.
I'll try my best. Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. You can get in touch with any feedback or guest suggestions by emailing me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. If you would like to hear more great episodes of the podcast, be sure to check them out on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow all our activities and podcasts on Facebook, X, LinkedIn and Instagram. If you have any feedback or guest suggestions, please email me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. I really would love to hear from you. Until next time, thanks for listening. Stay safe, keep smiling, and remember to look for fun and adventure in every day.